I'm Allister Heath and I'm responding to some of the excellent reader comments on my latest article. So we begin with a comment from Didi, who says, I am reluctantly quitting Reform and rejoining the Conservatives. Musk is right, Farage doesn't have what it takes. Badenoch has shown strong leadership and is willing to challenge net zero, illegal migration and wokery. Well, Didi, congratulations on your countercultural stance. I think most of the traffic at the moment is the other way, but I respect what you're doing. I don't know if Musk still believes that Farage is useless and should be replaced. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I think Badenoch is doing a very good job, as I say in the piece. She has indeed shown strong leadership and she's challenging net zero and so on. The problem is, in terms of political analysis, dispassionate political analysis, the electors are not listening to the Tories and they've decided to listen to Reform instead. The reason, quite simply, is that they think that most of the problems we have in this country are due to the Conservatives. They think Labour's useless and just making these pathologies worse, but they trust neither the Tories nor Labour and they're increasingly turning to Reform. So I think that is what I'm chronicling in this piece. I'm chronicling this incredible phenomenon which is seeing Reform become the dominant party of the right and Nigel Farage become the leading candidate to be Prime Minister after the next election and effectively become leader of the opposition. The next comment is from Colin Harris. I can't understand why the big names in the Tory party aren't moving to Reform. Any idea? Well, I suppose some will eventually, but if you look at their own self-interest, why move now? They have no need to move now. They can have their cake and eat it. If Reform continue to do well, they might decide to join Reform in a year, 2 years, 3 years. If Reform starts falling back and the Tories start doing well again, they can stick with the Tories and then they can gain power within that party and remain in the shadow cabinet. So I suspect we are in a current waiting phase where the rational, self-interested equilibrium for top Tories is to stay with the Tories, but to move to Reform potentially at some point in the future. Now, of course, all that may change. Somebody may decide to, grab first mover advantage by jumping ship first, but we haven't seen that yet. The next comment is from Craig Thomas. What Farage needs to do is welcome back Rupert Lowe to the fold and bury the hatchet. Lowe speaks what most working people think these days, similar to Anderson. For those who don't know who that is, Rupert Lowe is a Reform MP who fell out with Farage and Reform and is now an independent MP. To be honest, I think it's quite simple. I don't think Lowe will ever return. He may even join the Tories. Reform is a juggernaut. It will move on. There's been no impact in polling from these kinds of disputes. I just think that Farage controls his party with an iron fist. That's not going to change. If you want to work for Farage, you're working for Farage. You can't work against him. There's pros and there's cons to that, of course, because it means that certain people may not decide to join Reform. But I think it's always been very clear you can't try and dethrone Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage is the superstar. He will lead Reform. He would become Prime Minister if Reform had the majority of seats in the House of Commons, not anybody else. I think loyalty is very important in that party and it's not going to change. The next comment is an anonymous comment who says, Farage will divide Britain as never before and lead us to the brink of a race war. He must be defeated at all costs. I certainly don't think Farage will lead Britain to a race war. I think this country sadly is quite divided on those grounds at the moment. I think he's reflecting that to a certain degree, but so is Kemi Badenoch and so is even Keir Starmer, who has used extremely anti-immigration language in recent weeks in an attempt to shore up support on that front. Immigration's moved into becoming one of the biggest issues in British politics. I'm saying immigration, not race. I think these are completely different things. I think Farage is actually being quite moderate on this issue. He's being very careful not to use extreme language. He has not gone down the road that some of his online supporters would like him to go down. In fact, there's a lot of dissidents, ex-Reform people around on social media accusing Farage of having sold out. So no, I don't think that would happen, and I think it's essential for the UK to find a way to A, deal with the problem of illegal immigration, and B, substantially and permanently reduce legal immigration. I think there's massive public support for that, and it needs to be done in a considered, civilised and calm way. The next question is from John Elie. There's a big question over Farage's leadership calibre. We know that Farage is a brilliant political campaigner, but is he a statesman? Well, John, I think the key question is this. Can Farage convert a tiny party with a couple of senior executives, a few other people and a large number of effectively online members into becoming the most sophisticated, the best political group in Britain? Can he hire dozens of senior people? Can he hire hundreds of lower ranking people? Can he find hundreds of good people who don't have strange views to become members of parliament? Can he create a new cabinet effectively from scratch? Can he hire lawyers, economists, policy wonks? Can he come up with detailed spreadsheets? These are the sort of challenges he faces. We will find out over the next year or two whether he is up to it. As always, thank you to all our subscribers for your comments. They were great. Keep them coming, and as always, we will try and get back to as many of you as possible.